What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Small Lake City Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Nilsson, and welcome to episode 9. Really excited for our guest this week. His name is Stuart Anderson, and he's someone who has built a super strong community of cycling around him. Whether you're a road cyclist, mountain biker, or even the up-and-coming gravel cyclist, you're going to really enjoy this episode. The community he's created is called Me Duole. It's a cycling club based in the Wasatch Front. And no worries in case you aren't a cycling enthusiast. There's still a lot to learn from the club and a lot of their principles that they have. It's literally a club based on the premise of suffering together and going through the pain of hard things. Also, a lot of really good reminders and life lessons about making sure you have a community around you that can support you, making sure you have friends, and not feeling lonely when life gets really hard. So something for everyone in this episode, and really excited for y'all to hear from Stuart, his amazing attitude, upbeat character, and compassion towards so many people. So let's hear more from Stuart and about his story in creating and building Me Duole. Long story short, I've been humming and hawing over doing this podcast for 2 years. And so when I first started thinking about it, I was like, who do I want to have? Who would do this? And thinking about themes that I wanted to cover. And obviously, and we'll get into it, of road biking culture in Utah has changed so much, proliferated so much. Mm-hmm. And so I talked to Janie Bowen, who obviously you know very well. Mm-hmm. And I was like, hey, who started Me Duole? And she's like, oh, Stu Anderson. He's the man. You got to talk to him. Anyway, very animated about it. And for some reason, I imagined this 63, 65-year-old guy that just still gets up every morning on his bike. And then once things started to go.
I'll tell that story.
Exactly. But no, super stoked to have you. It's been it's embarrassing-ish how long I've wanted to have this specific conversation.
Cool.
And so I'm so stoked to have you here because anyone, especially if anybody drives up Emigration Canyon between the hours of 6 and 8 on any given day, you'll see 5 to 50 Me Duole jerseys going up. I think I've brought this up in the text kind of thread that we had, but I was training for the St. George Marathon, which has a lot of downhill. So there's one morning I was like, you know what, let's just go to the top of a little mountain and I'll just run down. And so sure enough, I'm driving to the top and I see a bunch of blinking red lights in the parking lot. And I'm like, I know exactly who these people are. So sure enough, get to the top, park my car, start riding down. And as I'm getting the top, first switchback coming down, I just hear Eric? And Spangler, of course, he's leading the charge. Mm-hmm. And then 2 seconds later, I hear Evan Cantor and he's like, Eric? I'm like, yep. Yes. And then Janie, Eric, yes, okay. All my friends decided to bike up the canyon this morning, but yeah, super cool the community we've been able to build. And that's one thing that's been super thematic for me in my love of Salt Lake and kind of the people that I've been talking to in the podcast is these communities that get created. And a lot of the time, and I'm sure we'll get into it, of how naturally these communities can form when someone takes a little bit of ownership and says, you know what, hey, let's formalize this a little bit more. Let's do this weekly, let's do this monthly. Oh, let's make bibs, let's make shirts, let's make jackets, let's make t-shirts, let's make hats, all of these things. And all of a sudden it becomes this thing. So super excited to talk to you about it, but definitely want to kind of lay some foundation for you and how you got there. But I know you're a Salt Lake City local, born and raised here. What part of the valley do you hail from?
Yeah. So born and raised Holiday, Utah. I literally live a mile and a half from the house I was born in. So
love that.
I went to Olympus, moved away to the Skyline area when me and my wife were first married. Now we're back in the Olympus area, literally a mile from my parents' house. So that's where I grew up, 45th South, 20th East, right there.
So just Olympus native, true and true.
True, and that's it. And it's all these Olympus people are back in my neighborhood. We're all just back in the same spot. So, and
it's that boomerang effect that happens so much in Utah. People are like, I don't know if I want to be here. I'm going to go do education, school, job, whatever, and come back. But obviously then quote, nicer neighborhoods growing up were so much closer to Salt Lake. And now you have people I can't afford to live in Harvard Yell or Federal Heights or the avenues. And it's just been kind of this, you saw this growth towards Mill Creek, you saw this growth towards, Holiday and Cottonwood Heights and obviously Draper Sandy, every which way neighborhood is kind of expanding that way as the populace continues to grow. I always joked when you drive from LA to San Diego and it'd be consistent concrete jungle. Mm-hmm. And Salt Lake didn't used to be that way, but now it's Ogden, all the way down to Payson.
Yeah.
There's stuff. But so, growing up, were you always on your bike? Was this an intimate relationship from the beginning, or what kind of activities were you engaged in those kind of formative years?
Yeah. So my parents they're not athletic. My dad played some sports when he was a little kid, but the most that we ever did as a family was, we go hiking, we do some bike rides to like the park on Saturday. But growing up, I played sports like normal kid, soccer, basketball, baseball, but all that kind of faded away. When I got in junior high, I stopped playing all sports. I had a close friend pull me into football at Olympus, so I played that ninth grade through my senior year. But endurance sports were not on my radar ever. Like if you dress up in that outfit, then you deserve to have something thrown at you out of your car. Like that was how I looked at cyclists. Like no way. I didn't mountain bike growing up. There was no biking. Like I had a trek that I just, like any kid, I went to my friend's house on my bike.
Throw it to the front yard, go to the basement, play some N64.
That's it. No cycling. I never did it. Yep. I didn't admire anyone that cycled. I never hung out with anyone that cycled growing up. It was just never part of my culture or my life. So,
the same way too. Like I remembered this so vividly. So I grew up in the Avenues. If you go up it's on North Cliff, but like up Terrace Hills, kind of like that second right. And I remember there's a couple times, maybe like 3 to 5 at most, that me and my sisters would hop on our almost like Walmart mountain bikes, and we'd go down Terrace Hills along 11th, like to the Capitol and back, and be like, that was a bike ride. And then for me then, obviously it was, but it's so crazy now to see how, even when I like drive up Sunnyside to go, to Foothill, you'll see all of these kids, like literally some of them can't be older than 12. Some in high school, but they're like just going up Emigration. And I'm like, you couldn't have paid me enough to do that in those years.
Yeah.
And it's changed so much.
It has changed.
And to that same thing, my family, we didn't really do a lot of outdoor stuff. A lot of it because, almost single mom raising kids. Like she's not gonna be like, all right, well, do you want to go camping? Should we go on a long hike? Do you want to go do that? Like it was so much more of keeping the peace rather than all out of this stuff, where that's a lot of where my appreciations come in for Utah, is like obviously the outdoors and the exposure to it. And where now people take it for granted for so much less than we do. But then also you have this influx of people coming in and they're like, this is the greatest place in the world. Look at this outdoor paradise. Like I grew up in Ohio. We don't have any of this.
It's true. As you're talking about that, I'm thinking about 2 weekends ago, I'm in Cedar City for the high school state mountain bike championship. And there are 2,200 kids racing over a 2-day period on the Cedar City mountain bike course. The fact that didn't exist 20 years ago when I was in high school, there was no high school cycling league. And now to see this thing where it was like a city built in the middle of down there in Cedar City. Yeah. The opportunity afforded to those kids to be outside recreating and loving bikes was the coolest thing I've seen. Because you'll know me, Eric, I am passionate about the cycling community, what it brings to people, whether it's kids or older men like us. Well, you're not an older man. You're like a handsome young guy.
It's subjective.
But I'm an older man. How important this community is. It really is special. And I didn't know anything about it when I was a little kid.
Totally. I have a nephew actually who does, mountain biking. He's a sophomore in high school now, I believe. And I'll talk to him and be like, wait, you mean you guys just get to go ride bikes with friends every day?
Oh, we're training.
What? Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's the same thing. Cause I'm a big golfer. And so I talked to my friends that played golf in high school. I'm like, wait, you guys just got to go play golf every day with your friends?
Golf team.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And which is a whole crazy experience. But so you're in Olympus playing a ton of football. Very typical for the area. Love that. What was your family dynamic? Were you the oldest, youngest? How many siblings were in the house?
I'm a middle child. I have an older sister, younger brother. And my parents were not into sports. I already said that. They, when it came time to...
Was there anything they pushed on you specifically?
No,
or was it just
no.
The world is your oyster.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come to a game. Maybe we won't come to a game. Your game, it was just you do that. I only bring that up because now, I do everything in my power to be at every child's sporting event, practice, buying them. My parents were just kind of listen, make it work. Good luck. maybe we'll come to a game if it fits our schedule. Always supportive, always there, provide, camps and travel and everything like that. But it certainly my life didn't focus around sports and, well, Stuart's got football. We're going to the state champ. It was like, great.
Cool. Good for you.
Yeah. Did you get your piano done? Did you mow the lawn? So that's kind of how I grew up. My family dynamic. My sister did a lot of ballet. My brother was 4 years younger than me. So I watched him play little league stuff, but, that was it. Normal family on the East Bench of Salt Lake City.
It's very accurate. Were you close with any of those siblings growing up, or happened later, kind of stayed in your own lane?
Yeah, stayed in my own lane. We didn't become friends till we were older, in our 20s.
Yeah. I feel like that's so typical. Like, me and my sister, Kirsten, is one of my best friend. Like, there's probably two people who I can talk to about anything at any time, and she's the number one of those two people. Mm-hmm. But like in high school and like early 20s, not a chance. Like, she used to write me weekly when she was in school at Utah State, because she played soccer up there, and just kind of being like, just trying to connect almost. But like, I was like, whatever. I'm like, just like a shithead high school kid. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I'm not going to take time to write my sister. But thankfully, all of that effort that she put in built all of this. And then all of a sudden, like, we found ourselves kind of like 3, 4, 5 years ago being like, hey, like, can we have like a real relationship and like be friends?
Where I
and
like you?
Yeah. And it's been, obviously like life-changing and game-changing for so many reasons. Like, even, Halloween was on Tuesday, and I was like sitting there, I was like, I really don't want to go like be around a lot of people. I'm tired. I've worked the next day. I like text her, I'm like, are you taking the kids out trick-or-treating? She's like, yeah. I'm like, can I come? She's like, sure. Which is like a whole like a tangent of, so weird on being that side of things, but in the same neighborhood I used to trick or treat, and I was like, this is wild, but it was so fun. So go through high school, you're into sports, parents are supportive, but not like they're not in the pacing the sideline, watching you, coaching things like probably Jake would be doing with his kids. So I imagine high school ends, go on a mission.
I served a mission, to Ireland, Northern Ireland.
Was
awesome.
That's so stupid that you got to go there. Like, I was actually just talking to someone who's from Scotland, and they're like, oh, I kind of want to go to Ireland. It seems like, like, it's one of the places you see pictures, and there's no one looking at there and being like, that's an ugly place. I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Absolutely the best. Every day I think about how special it was, not only to live there, but what I got to do. It was the coolest thing. A lot of my companions were British, Irish, Scottish. So I also got to live with that culture. It was the best. I loved it. Yeah,
I went to Washington. Okay. If you pick up a piece of fruit and it says "Made in Washington," those were my people.
Nice.
That's because I was Spanish speaking. So it's like the whole eastern side of Washington, central Washington. Like, if you're not from Washington and I name the cities, they're like, cool, never heard of it. Moving on. You weren't in Seattle? That's all I care about. And obviously there's so formative years of.
Yeah, right, dude. I put on like 20 pounds in the first 4 months, just eating Irish deep fried candy bars and chip shops. Like, I didn't even know it until I looked down and I had rubbed a hole in my thighs were touching, and I'd rubbed a hole in my pants. And I'm like, what is wrong with my pants ripped? Yeah, my pants ripped. And I sent a picture to she's my wife now, but she's like, you're looking like you're thin. She wouldn't say this, but like, I put on some serious weight.
A lot of strategic words.
Yes.
Not you're fat, but
like, what is going on?
She's like, I'm doubting everything now. Types out, "Dear John."
No.
Backspace.
But it was incredible. And that was 1999, 2000.
Cool. It's okay. I was on my mission, and when Blockbuster went out of business, so I'd like drive past these Blockbusters.
Tragic.
Like, can I go buy like 20 DVDs really quick for 50 cents? So you come back with school in the future, or what were the kind of those next steps after coming back from the
University of Utah? I political science degree. My father always let me know that a scholarship would be available from him if it was at the University of Utah.
Go Utes.
Absolutely no way I could go to BYU. Like, that was just culture of our family. So I lived at home. I went to the U, and I loved every minute of I'm through and through University of Utah. Just, I still have season tickets to gymnastics, football, basketball. So I grew up doing that. That was our family culture, was Utah sports.
Cool.
That was Tuesday, Thursday night with Rick Majerus. That was what we did.
It's so funny, like, how many people have, because when you go through like life, you almost have this thought that I'm the only one experiencing all of these things. But then you start to realize, like I was talking to someone about Utah football because my stepdad, always had tickets with some of the people that he had, worked with, lived around kind of like that Yellcrest, Yell area, and had like church callings with and stuff. And so they got married when I was 14. And so that's almost 20 years ago. And like, I didn't really like think about like how much time had passed, how much experience and how like formative that was. And then I was like, wait a minute, like I go to these seats and it's like, oh, hey, how's it going? How's it going? Oh, good to see you again. How's things?
People.
And like same people, same experiences, but it's like, we were all there and we were all watching. It was all such a good time. And like, same thing with gymnastics. Like you go anywhere else, you're like, oh, by the way, I have gymnastics tickets. Like, why? Like, are you a gymnastistics enthusiast? You're like, no, we're just really good at it.
Red
Rocks. Like, come on. And it's so fun to have that common ground with people when you think you're the only ones going to this stuff, but then it just continues, right? And then you get older, like, yeah, well, I'm getting season tickets now. It's time for my time to shine.
Yep.
And it just keeps rolling forward.
Yeah.
So you go to the U in political science, graduate from the U. I know that they're the Crown Council, which you're not a dentist.
No.
Which I know way too many dentists because, again, Utah, like I know 3 Dr. Bowens that are all dentists.
Yes.
And anyway, I digress. Yeah, Brandon, his dad, Brad, and my friend Spencer Bowen.
Very saturated market here in Utah.
Very saturated. Like I was talking to one of my friends who's a dentist somewhere else. I'm like, oh, you coming back? He's like, I can't. There's not enough.
It's true.
There's not enough mouths.
More dentists per capita in Salt Lake City than anywhere else.
Yeah. So how did you get involved with Crown Council?
So my grandfather, my dad's dad, Arthur Anderson, he was a marketing executive and grew up just planning and organizing and doing marketing campaigns for gigantic corporations. Zions Bank was one of his huge accounts, and he made it known that was something that was part of our family, the creative nature of advertising. So my dad kind of followed his footsteps in marketing, the love of business, the love of entrepreneurship. And my family's really tight. Like my father has 6 other brothers and sisters, so a family of 7. And man, every first Sunday of every month, we were having dinner with 180 cousins. Wow. I mean, there's like, now that group is gigantic. And that kind of propelled me into this market of entrepreneurship, building my own thing, being involved in some sort of creativity, business building enterprise. And Crown Council was created in the late 90s as an opportunity for dentists to learn business skills. Mm-hmm. So in short, a dentist goes to dental school, comes out, runs a business, has to hire people, manage groups of people, a culture, a community. And Crown Council's job is to provide the tools to a dental professional to help them build their practice, whether it's business relations or strategic connections that they make inside of dentistry. We provide online culture training tools, anything that would build a dental practice to be a better place to go. So dentists come to us and say, how do I hire? How do I train my team's culture? How do I build my own community of people that patients want to come and be a part of? So that's nationwide. 1,200 dental practices belong to like our group. It's a community, a membership. And we do humanitarian trips, a charity program, live events. So I'm a dentist. I'm with dental teams all day, every day. And I get to work with my father too. So he and his brother started the business. My partner, my dad's brother's down in Dallas, and then we're here in Salt Lake City. That's it. Was that good enough for Crown Council?
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's right. And the best dentists know that. And the people that want to build their business and provide an incredible experience for patients are constantly working on their practice. Mm-hmm. So they're doing not only work in the practice, but they're working on it. And those are our clients, the dentists that want to elevate patient care, patient experience. And I only tell you that because I feel it leads in, you let me lead, you lead, but it spills into the community of cyclists. I spend my professional career building a community and trying to teach others how to build a culture inside their practice. And that spills over into the bike team and into cycling.
Yeah. So before we go into kind of like the biking details, let's go back to maybe mission-ish. But so riding this woman who's now your wife,
Yes.
met her before.
Yes.
So walk us through that story.
Okay, so I come home, and my wife Kristen, her mom and my mom know each other from a nail salon.
Okay.
Kristen is working as the receptionist now after high school, and my mom secretly is feeding information to Kristen about how weird I am when I got home. So I was like, "You can't date him yet. Don't call him. If he calls you, don't talk. He's super weird."
Let him warm up a little bit.
It was like 2.5 years until my mom was like, "Okay, you can." So I know that is a bit of a. I'm proud of that. Like, I came home a weirdo.
It
I came
worked
home a
out.
weirdo.
Yeah.
It's fine. I was committed to the cause. I was a great missionary. That I changed. Maybe some of that stuff had to wear off a bit when I came home, which is good. I'm happy for my wife reminds me all the time that I was a real weirdo when I came home. So we start dating. It's 3 or 4 years now. I've been home from a mission, and that's it. We got married here in Salt Lake City, moved into the Skyline area. I immediately bought a home up in Skyline, right below the high school. We remodeled, lived there for 7 years, had a child. And if people want to know what life was like before CrossFit, okay, when CrossFit became CrossFit, I was all in. I was doing 1,000 body weight squat. I don't even know what the hell. All that ridiculous CrossFit stuff. I was at ground zero. And so I entered into that world. My wife entered into that world, and that was like exercise for us. Like, we thought this was fun. It's 2007, 2008. And that kind of consumed my fitness world for 2 or 3 years.
Just talking to every single person about it.
I was the epitome of the CrossFit like guy. It was looking back.
We all have those phases that we look back like, all right, well, we did that. I mean, there's worse things you could have gotten
Why
into.
am I power cleaning? Like, why am I military press? If people listen to this, I just I look back at that time and I'm like, it was just kind of silly.
But also a great thing to do.
It was
together.
fun. It was. I mean, and from there we propelled into the world of triathlon.
Okay. How did you get introduced? So, I mean, CrossFit and triathlon, that's pretty different worlds.
It was.
How did you transition into that? Was it someone that brought you, or just exploring on your own?
Something about me, personal, is I really enjoy the nature of suffering on a bike. It's one of the reasons that I am drawn to the experience of cycling. I feel like being able to suffer and experience pain and really get into when cycling gets weird, when it gets hard, when it pushes you. My daughter describes it. Her swim coach talks about being an onion. So like each layer that gets peeled back.
The old Shrek 101. Yes.
When it gets harder and harder. I love that about cycling. And so CrossFit transitioned us into triathlon because someone was like, "Oh, they're so hard. You've got to try it." And I was like, "This is so dumb." But we tried it, and I'm like, this is actually pretty fun. We did like a couple of sprint triathlons. It was fun to travel for the weekend. The equipment was kind of fun, like wetsuits and bikes. And
I'm a big gear guy.
I mean, that's fun.
Yeah.
It was a new world of like, I went away from medicine balls and rings into this world of like cycling shoes. And I'm in the transition area, and I'm going to use these stretchy laces. Now I'm going fast, you know? So that was a really fun transition. We did it with some friends. And as couples, we would go around and do all the Utah triathlons. And that progressed into, now we're doing halves. Now we're doing Olympic triathlons. And now I'm really getting into the suffering of triathlon. I did a couple half Ironmans, and we were in our neighborhood, and there's an older man that lived in our neighborhood. His wife came to my wife one day, and she's like, "How's it going?" And Kristen's like, "Well, he's training for a half Ironman." And this woman's husband had done Ironmans for years. And she's like, "Well, there's nothing more selfish than an Ironman." And Kristen's eyes were kind of wide, like, she's right. And we had this big, long talk about, I'm running in the morning, I'm riding in the afternoon, I'm swimming in the morning, I'm running at lunch. I'm like, we have
any free time you're doing.
I'm going to bed. Yeah. I'm going to bed. I can't. I got to get up. And so we had a baby. She was 2 or 3 years old, 4 years old, and Kristen and I were like, this is kind of silly. But it really consumed everything about our young marriage. And it was good to step back and just kind of just say, hey, maybe not for us. Like, let's not do this.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. Like, I don't think I've had a friend, because I feel like becoming very popular in Utah specifically, because everybody loves being outside. Everyone loves to run. Everyone loves to trail run. Everyone loves to bike. So it's like, cool, I can swim too. I'll go to Steiner and do some laps.
Yeah.
And obviously it's great. And like, I totally understand like the suffering of it all. And there's a quote, it's like, I don't cycle as much as I should now. Like this summer I had to come Jesus moment with myself where I have to pick 2 hobbies. That's it. Otherwise I'm like mountain biking, road biking, golfing, running, like pickleball. Like I'm just like this ADHD focused, like border collie of like, oh yeah, exercise, something to do. Cool. Let's sprint off in that direction. So this year I was like, hey, we're going to run a marathon. That's something I needed to do. Go run St. George, my mother's favorite marathon. She retired. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then golf, because I'm helplessly addicted to golf and all my friends are addicted to golf. But there's a quote that I love from Will Smith. It's probably like 10-ish years ago, where he's like, if there's 2 things you need to do, I'm paraphrasing, but there's 2 things that I love to do. It's running and reading. Because all of our problems have been solved before. You just have to go figure it out and learn. And 2, because with running, there's this voice in the back of your head that tells you to give up, to stop. It's too hard. And if you can mentally running, or the same applies for cycling, swimming, anything, to learn how to just tell that voice to kind of shut up, that skill is so valuable in everything, whether it's professional, whether it's in family, whatever adversity you're going through. If it's like, okay, shut up. I know this is hard. I know it's easier to quit, but I have to keep moving forward. And I think a lot of people don't cause like you talk to people, like, how many conversations do you have with people? You're like, oh yeah, like one of my biggest passions is cycling. Like, oh, I hate cycling. It's hard. You're like, yeah, that's why we like it.
Yeah.
So totally understand that. And then also totally understand the time suck and being like, okay, maybe I do need to be with my family more and take away from the selfishness of it. Yeah. So you start getting into the tries, you start to realize like, okay, maybe long-term isn't that impact. So I imagine there's a thought process in all this where you're like, let's keep this bike. If we're picking one of these 3, let's hold on to this one.
That's right. And I would ride in this, like you were saying at the introduction, here I am in Immigration. I'm in Mill Creek Canyon. I'm in Big Cottonwood Canyon. And it's always the same time. I'm riding before my family's awake. So I'm out at 5, I'm out at 5:30, I'm home by 7:30. And I'm always seeing the same idiots. It's the same guys in the same stupid gear. And one of them is in my neighborhood. So it's a friend that I grew up in high school with, Spencer Chipping. And Chip finally says to me, why don't you come and ride? Come and try this out with us. Come and ride out. We're riding in the same places anyway. Just come ride with us. So I started riding with the Me Duole guys. And that really was it. It's like not glamorous. We were riding in the same places. We were coming from the same spot. We're all leaving from holiday at the same time. We're all dads. And I started riding with Me Duole. That was it. It transitioned that fast from triathlons into like, I'll just go all in with bikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you and Chip, was it you and Chip to begin with, the 2 of you, and then kind of snowballed from there? Or?
So there's a great question. So do you want the history of Me Duole?
Of course.
So history of Me Duole was 1984. We call them the OGs. So these old gangsters, East Bench guys that are now 65, 60, 55 years old. They started the team and they created Me Duole. They made the partnerships with Barbacoa. All the sponsors that came to the team early were started by this group of guys. So all the glory goes to them for starting Me Duole. They were known as like the real mountain goats of cycling here in Utah. And some of the professionals came from the ranks of these early guys.
Love that.
So Marty Jameson that rode for Lance, he was one of the original team members, still around here in Utah, running tours over in Europe. But there are some old school Me Duole guys that started this team. And when me and Chip started riding together, the team had kind of gone, it wasn't that they weren't around. It was that the passion behind building the squad had kind of fizzled out.
Needed a little bit of life support.
Yeah. And so I started running the website. I started doing a Twitter feed. I started running an Instagram feed. And just because I was like, this is cool. I'm with these guys. I want to represent who we are. I'm like, I'm on a team. And after 2 or 3 years, I think they saw, hey, there's some passion here for our group. And me and Chip we said, can we have the team? Can we run it? And that was 8 or 9 years ago that these guys just handed over everything that was Me Duole leadership to us. And although the team had kind of dipped a bit, it was a real honor to take over the tradition of what Me Duole was, because they had set the culture. These guys, everyone knew these guys were they were just bad. They were going to bury you. These old guys that could ride 5 canyons in a Saturday, with we're just doing 14,000 vert before noon.
Casual.
Yeah, no big deal. And that was known. It wasn't like me and Chip.
So they already had this reputation. They knew who these people were.
Yes.
And because where did the name come from originally? Because obviously
It's a great question. Yeah. It's a great question. So Me Duole is old school Italian for you're causing me great suffering. Mm. It means like when I'm with you, you are making me to suffer. So when you say, that is the name of the team as itself is you're causing me great physical anguish.
Which is, it's good to set expectations early, because if you were to be like, "Hey, we are the sunset riders. We just love to be
jelly bellies."
Yeah, like the people show up, they're like, "Oh, we're just gonna go on a nice bike ride." Like, no, we're going up big, then we're gonna go up little, then we're gonna So to be like, "Hey, we're gonna suffer together and we're gonna grow together from it."
Yeah.
So you have this passing of the guard of you guys being like, "Hey, listen, we want to carry this shield forward. Thank you so much for your work. All honor to you guys, but we're gonna take it from here." What did that, how intentional was that beginning of trying to grow this thing? Or was it mostly just
it was not
throwing it to the wall and see what stuck?
Yeah, it was not intentional. When it first happened, we weren't like, "Hey, okay, we're gonna go get a loan," and we're gonna, not like I take a loan out, but we weren't thinking like, what can we do to grow? That wasn't the intention at all. Me and Chip were like, "Hey, we've got some nice East Bench group, a nice community of cyclists. We've got the culture of this team. Let's make great gear. Let's make a great website, and let's have fun on social media. Tell everybody what we're doing and show how cool it is." Mm-hmm. That was it. And the community, and I'll use Jake Cook as an example, started to gravitate towards the team. Like, I want to be part of whatever you guys are building. I want to race with you. I want to look like you guys. And slowly but surely, that community and culture started to just grow. Word started to spread about, can I ride with you guys?
Which is such because I've had enough guests on the podcast where there's so many situations where you can find yourself in like an entrepreneurial state of mind where you're like, I could make as much money as I want to on this. Mm-hmm. But I've learned like that doesn't really work. Like no one is gravitated towards a community or some sort of passion based on like financial return. They're based on authenticity. They're based on being present, and they're based on intimate human relationships and like connections.
It's true.
And so it's so interesting that you say that, where it's like, hey, we just wanted to be like some people riding bikes, having fun, and like doing something that we loved and suffering our way through it.
Yes.
And people did that. And like, and I know like Jake, I don't know if it's probably a chicken and the egg situation, but a lot of that neighborhood, like that neighborhood I grew up in, the cycling we got into, Creighton Rider.
That's right.
Saints to Sinners. And like for me, for example, like I always wanted to go do it, but I didn't want to be the person to call me and be like, hey, sign me up, I'm in this. And like, just kind of, I'm just not that person to like force my way into something like that. And it wasn't until I think Dana was posting on Instagram, like, hey, is anybody interested in doing Saints to Sinners this year? We need a couple people. And like, literally like DMing back as soon as possible. Like, yes, I want in. I don't even have a bike. I've never even ridden a road bike, but I'm in. So like I think I borrowed someone's bike, bought a kit off Amazon.
Nice.
I remember I was living in like the avenues at that time. So I'm going up Virginia and like literally tilt over because I don't know how to unclip perfectly. And I'm like, how is this going to go? But like, yada, yada, yada. End up doing Saints to Sinners with some of my best friends and like slogging through it all, having so much fun and doing that for a couple of years. But that's so many of those guys got into cycling. Like Jake, Jason, like that Evan's probably a result of that, like that whole area.
Yeah.
And seeing that growth. And it's so fun to see how they kind of like, and I think this is probably overstretching, but seeing how they found this passion and like a part of it's attached to that. But then it's like, how do I keep doing this more? And who are these people I do it with? Yeah. And I think you were there for, obviously it's very anecdotal, but I think there's a lot of stories similar to those where it's like, hey, I want to find these people, but I can't just go like talk to a stranger at 5:45 by Ruth's Diner and say, hey, do you want to do this every morning? Or like, how do you find these people? So like, it's so cool that you had this place that people were finding solace or trying to find something like that and being like, yeah, meet here at this time and we'll do it.
That's right. And it's very similar to Crown Council in that the culture of dentistry is not one where a dentist is trained to share ideas and to share business practices with the other dentist. That's just not a thing that most dentists know how to do. They're not like, hey, I'm doing this thing in my practice and we're crushing it, so let me share it with you. In Crown Council, we try to teach that, where a dentist has this incredible idea, they're doing it, whatever. They're sharing that with their friends, and they find that the law of that natural law where I give more away, I actually receive more. There are only a certain amount of dentists that gravitate towards that idea. Some of them, when we try to explain that to them, they're like, I am not going to do this. And they leave our group, and that is fine. We're like, okay, you don't fit. And the reason I share that is because Me Duole and the team is very similar. So a guy, Jake, brings Matt Ryder, and Matt joins on a ride. And for example, let's just say that as Matt rides up immigration on his first time, he's just like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. I can't stand being with you guys. That's okay. Like, we never intended for Me Duole to like be this thing where all people can gravitate towards and love it.
Quality over quantity.
I mean,
the right people that want to be there.
I would welcome everyone. That's how it's built.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, the group is mountain biking, gravel biking, road biking, dads, women. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm not like, you don't fit. Like, sorry.
It's not like there's a tryout.
No, well, we joke that there is a tryout, but the same thing happens here. I think that guys will want to be part of the group, and they'll come and enjoy whatever we offer in the community of our team. And if it's a fit, that's great. Stay with us, help us build the group. Justin Spangler was that guy. He came, he's like, this looks cool. You guys I'm gonna ride with you. And now he's like, I want to help build the team. More people need to experience this cycling team because of what it's given to Justin. That's his words. And so he stays, he builds, but it's not for everybody. Some lone wolves just don't love being part of the community, and that's okay. That's just how it works.
Totally.
Yeah.
So you start this up like 8-9 years ago. At what point did you realize, like, we got a kind of like an army of people here? Like, this is not just like a couple dudes riding up mountains on the weekend.
It was the first time I exported the kit list. So when we sold kits, the company Volet that makes our kits, I'm like, hey, can I get like a packing list, like an order list? And they're like, why? I'm like, well, I need to know who is buying my stuff. And when I got the list, I'm like, it was like 180 plus different individuals buying gear. And I'm like, Chip, we need to figure out how to organize all these people.
Yeah.
We need a database. We need like an email system. We need a Facebook group. We need a GroupMe chat. We need to figure out a way to like communicate with all these people. And so there was never an old list of guys. And from that moment, that was kind of when the team really took a shift, when the communication of the community took shape.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's awesome. See it grow that way, like almost like sneakily, where you're how many of you, like, how many is this now? And you're like, oh, that's not a not insignificant number.
Yeah. And it was in a way where I import them into Google, and I'm like, man, there's a lot of contacts. Should we have a team email? Should we have a team text thread? Like, what do we do? And that was when Chip and I started working through team updates. If you know about Strava,
mm-hmm.
So Strava, we created the Strava group where we would update guys and people would join that group. A Facebook page. I mean, that was really when the team took a different shape, a different move.
Cool.
Was when we could communicate with each other, and the team could communicate with each other.
And I'm sure, like, when you deal with that many people, it's not like, all right, everybody this time this goes. I'm sure there's like a lot of asynchronous groups.
That's right.
I mean, almost like subgroups within it all. I mean, there's people who are probably there every single ride ready to rock, and there's people who kind of, show up here and there.
That's right.
Some people who are competing and doing a load of job every year, and there's people who are like, listen, this is just a way for me to get out of bed and like talk to people and not hate life.
Well, and one thing we do, I'm a big believer in culture, and that culture has to be trained. You can't just hope that your culture works out.
Has to be intentional.
It has to be intentional. And so we started 6 or 7 years ago recognizing the leaders on the team, guys that were setting the team culture in a way where new people would come in and say, who do I look to? What are we supposed to do on this team? And so our team colors are white, black, red, and yellow. And we made specialty kits that we honor our leaders with. So they wear yellow. And so when they're gifted and nominated by the team as the leader, they wear these yellow kits. So we have about 12 right now, usually about 2 a year, where we gift at team camp down in St. George 2 new yellow jersey wearers.
That's awesome.
And it's like we look to them. And they're not the strongest guys. Some of them are. But it's not like we pick the guy that wins.
It's not a competition of who can do the most miles or have the most output.
That is not the yellow jersey wearers. They are the team. They are the guys that are committed, loyal, dedicated, passionate to the cause of Me Duole.
Yeah. No, I love that. Because and that's the right way to do it, right? Like nominate internally, have it based on the people of the biggest heart on their sleeve, not like the most output. Because that's not what you necessarily want to it's part of it, but it's not like we're not this elitist group of whoever's the best is the best and do that. Like obviously there's, as you said, like there's been a lot of professional cyclists that have come out of it in the past. There's been people who, are absolutely crushing it and could go compete and win money. But at the end of the day, like it's not that elitist mentality that brings people together. It's that community of like, we're going to suffer together, we're going to build together, we're going to grow together, and we're going to show up and be here on this ride with each other.
Yeah. And Eric, I don't want to generalize, but road cyclists as a group are known to be real jerks, like real a-holes, real alphas. And so that idea in Me Duole is something that I hope my team knows that I'm passionate about, is that we are at the antithesis of that person. That for years, the road cyclist mentality of like, listen, I'm in it for me. That's it. And I know that, I don't want to generalize. That's why I said I don't want to stereotype, but I hope that Me Duole knows that I want to be beyond that. That the team is a community, loyal to each other. If you get a flat in Lodija, we're stopping to help. Mm-hmm. I joke around. Charles Smart. Do you know Charles Smart? Mm-hmm. He's one of those. Okay, so I got a flat in Lodija 2 or 3 years ago, and they left me. The squad left.
Guys, come on.
And now it was kind of the plan. Lodija is like this. It's like a free for anything can happen.
Totally.
So I was like, just go, leave. Like I'll figure it out. My life, that's fine. And I know that Charles carried this baggage for a long time where he felt really passionate about, I left you. Like that was terrible that we all left you. And so last year I raced Leadville, the mountain bike race. It's a 100-mile mountain bike race up in Leadville.
Is it the same path as the trail running race?
It's not quite the same.
Okay.
But
I just finished Born to Run, so it's very top of mind for me.
So it's all over 10,000 feet, 100-mile race, 12,000 vertical feet of climbing in a day. And I got flat. Stupid flat, and I'm racing it with Charles, and dude, this guy gives up because the dream is you race it in sub 9. Under 9 hours gets this big ass gold belt buckle.
Yes.
And so that's our goal.
Yeah.
And Charles, I'm ahead of Charles, and he sees me on the side and he stops, gives me his tube, we fix it together, and we continue on. And at the time, like it's so hectic, but looking back, it was one of the most special moments of 2023 with a teammate, with a friend, with an adult friend that like I have become friends with through this community. I didn't know Charles growing up. Like he has become a friend through cycling. Mm-hmm. And looking back, it was one of the coolest things ever that he would sacrifice his whole event for me. Technically that could have been the end of the day for him, but he sacrificed his day as a teammate and as a friend to give me a tube. And we both got sub 9.
There you go. Still walk away with the hardware.
So it was cool. That's the kind of community that I'm part of, that I'm passionate about, that I love to talk about, that I love to be with. And if anybody listening wants to know, it's November 2nd. And it is the worst time of year because cycling is ending. And I really get emotional about not being able to be with those guys.
And I'm sure, and it's like, it sucks too, because like cold, that's one thing, cool. Throw on some layers, long sleeves, call it good. But then you're like, there's no light anymore.
There's no
I
light.
can't do this.
It's not light till what, like 7:30?
Yeah, it's miserable. I can't golf anymore. So,
Yeah.
well, because like this year, me and all my high school friends kind of had this moment like, hey, we're all like helplessly addicted to golf. And like I used to be a big weekend warrior, like Saturday 18, Sunday 18, and that was it. But then all these friends are like, hey, like I have like 3 kids. I can only golf like if we tee off sometime between like 6 and 6:30. I'm like, I can wake up for that. and it was so fun because like I was talking to Andrew Williams, and we were sitting there golfing, I think it was last week. And he's like, Eric, before this year, when was the last time you called me on the phone? And I was like, you're absolutely right. And I'm like, and now you are probably the top 5 people I've spent the most time with this year. And so it's so fun how it's so hard for people. And like, I'm throwing myself in here because I will shout this from the rooftop, but like to just call someone up on the phone. How are things? How's life? How's it going? But when you have any sort of shared interest or hobby or activity that brings you together, for some reason, it makes everything so much easier. And even more so if it's, okay, see you at this time every week, like automating it all, then all of a sudden
matching outfits too.
I'll tell Andrew we need to get some matching polos. But yeah, I mean, it's like, it's those little things where you go from seeing, I mean, you probably didn't even know Jake Cook before bikes, and now you see him all the time. It was like same thing with Janie Bowen. Like we were at dinner one time and she's like, yeah, I spent a ton of time on the bike with Jake and like we're really close. And I was like, this is so hilarious. Like I would never put you two in this room and being friends, but you have this shared experience, especially like shared trauma. That trauma bonding of going through the pain of it all is
it's special.
Yeah. So a couple of things I want to go back to that you've talked about. So I know you guys have team rides at every which cadence. Like, so how often are you guys riding as a team versus riding alone?
Yeah.
Or is there any sort of expectations of if you're going to be with us this day, this time, every so often?
Great question. That is the most popular thing that when someone joins a team, especially this team, they're like, well, I want to ride. When are we riding? When are we getting together? It's not like guys are joining because they want to match as much as we joke. They don't want to match my pants. I mean, I guess that's fun, but people want to ride together. They want to come together. And so the team really tries to figure out a way throughout the summer. So when riding is available, that there is something happening most days, whether it's a mountain bike ride or a gravel ride or a road ride, someone is planning something somewhere for all skill levels to be part of the group. One thing that we do is we always do, and this just started since 2021, every Monday, 6 a.m., it's like an open ride in immigration.
Cool.
So if you're new to the team, that's where we say, just come, see what happens. You can be with us. All skill levels arrive.
It's kind of like the great time if someone's curious, bring your friend.
That's it.
Cool.
We're not going to drop. I mean, people will get dropped.
Naturally.
But people will stay together. It's not like we're all riding up.
It's not like this, like, because like, I mean, I've seen it where like, there's obviously like the front runner group, and then it'll be like the kind of leading group. Then there's like the average group, like it just kind of groups together like any kind of large group on cycles.
That's right. And so the team, in the summer manages multiple, it's planned on GroupMe. We have a GroupMe app, Strava app. We try to manage different groups arriving at races together. So if a group's like, well, we're all going to go do East Canyon Road Race. So they coordinate a group together. We're all going to do this group in Lotaja. We're going to go do this group at Crusher and the Tusher. So there's all sorts of different groups that are constantly planning and working and being together at races and events and rides. So
cool.
Yeah.
And then I know you guys have the team, what's the phrase? I want to say team camp, but I don't think that's right, down in St. George,
team
right?
camp. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So if you don't, this is kind of weird. You guys, people can laugh. This is a really weird part of cycling culture. 4 or 5 years ago, there was this indoor cycling program created called Zwift.
Yes.
Okay. We laugh at it. We make fun of it, but then it organically became half of our year. We all go inside for the winter.
Yeah.
And Zwift makes it possible for you to ride virtually with people who are like all over the world.
Yeah, you're all in your living room with your bike hooked up, and
it's just silly.
Yeah.
But it has become half of our year, and the team now has like a Zwift club where we organize rides, races, events. People join us in the winter the same way they join us in the summer. And team camp comes at the end of like, by the time we are just, I can't sit inside anymore to ride. Team camp is this incredible breath of fresh air down in St. George, 1st of April, where 100 or so people all go down and we do Thursday, Friday, Saturday of team camp. Raffles from the team sponsors, 2 sponsored dinners, 3 different rides together. I mean, it's like we've already set the date. Jake's already planning camp for next year.
Love that.
That is how, as soon as we transition out of summer, everyone's like, okay, well, let's plan team camp. Like,
it's coming up enough. It's time to start thinking about this.
Yeah. So team camp is the best. It's always so fun. We all stay in houses together and it's the best.
Sounds unreal.
Yeah.
So, so obviously you've had this growth of this community, but then like also kind of happening at the same time, I feel like there's just been this huge growth in cycling, especially like road cycling in general.
It's true.
How have you seen that both personally cycling in Me Duole and in the club, and to have those come together and like be a part of all of that?
Yeah. We want, Chip and I, we want to take an active role in how cycling, especially in Utah, is interacted with, viewed, how this community like comes together, because there's a lot more than just guys and gals getting together to ride. Like the community is special of cyclists, whether it's providing support for each other or an opportunity to meet new people. There's a lot of group rides where like networking and business is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so especially since the pandemic, there's been this gigantic influx of bikes. Like if you went into a bike shop at the end of 2020, there were no bikes.
Were nothing. Like, yeah,
there were no bikes.
I worked with someone who was the manager of, of Contender on 9th and 9th. And so pandemic hits, I was working at a place, got laid off, was sad at first, but then I realized like my severance package was good enough that I could go ride my bike up City, because I was living on like 4th West. Mm-hmm. I was like, I go ride my bike up City Creek every day, come back, sit by the pool, and like go to the gym. It was just like the best. But then I reached out to her and her husband, like, hey, like I kind of need a new bike. He's like, yeah, you and everybody else.
Yeah, there's no bikes.
and I was like, oh, that's funny, but really I need a bike. He's like, no, we don't have any. Everybody bought bikes.
Yeah. And that was kind of the time too, where a lot of people were gravitating toward a community of cyclists, like outdoor people. Where are we gathering? Where are we going? And so for Me Duole, that was a huge kind of a change. 20, 21, 22, 23. I mean, it's a big change in culture. Young guys, people just like getting into being outdoors. Totally. And so another big change that's happened is gravel.
Yeah.
I mean, that is,
I saw Matt, Jay, all those guys, like all of a sudden they're like, we're going on trails. And I'm like, we're not mountain biking. Yeah. It's like this, it's so interesting. Yeah.
So it's been that's also been a huge influx in the way cycling has grown. A lot of new gravel events. One of the coolest things ever is this, it's called the Lifetime Grand Prix. 2 years ago, the brand Lifetime created this 6-race series throughout the United States, gravel and mountain bike. And they brought together the best athletes, not road cyclists. We're talking like professional mountain bikers, gravel racers, and they move them from like it goes all across the United States starting in April, and it just ended a couple weeks ago. And the guy that wins, my idol, like if you want to see me get weird, it's Keegan Swenson. He's up in Heber. He's the coolest guy. Well, I don't know if he's the coolest guy. I think he's the coolest guy.
To you, he is, and that's all that matters.
If it was Kobe or Keegan, dude, I am picking Keegan. I will not. He is the man.
Love that.
And so that he is, and guys like him are kind of moving and shifting away from, because cycling was like, we got to ride on the road.
Right. I mean, it's the Lance Armstrong, like,
yeah.
This like kind of, I don't want to say like stoic, but it's kind of like boring, for lack of a term. And then all of a sudden you
a little dangerous.
Bring it in. Yeah, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And then you bring it into Utah and people are like, well, I like going up the canyons, but I want to be in the mountains a little more.
And that's kind of what gravel's doing. It's providing a different view of cycling. I can ride a gravel bike up a mountain bike trail. I can ride it on a gravel road. I can connect it from Parley's because I don't want to really ride my bike on Parleys, but I could ride this gravel bike for a bit onto a trail and then onto the road. So it's been a really fun part of cycling in Utah is kind of this shift to gravel bikes, this all-terrain bike.
Yeah, and you see it all the time because like I've like trail running and I mean obviously if you go, I mean I go to Bonneville Shoreline a lot. It's my favorite spot, and I mean obviously you're going to see mountain bikers, but then you'd be like, oh, the gravel guy. He's been slogging for a while. You can see that, but like totally like to your point, like if you want to go do the Parleys loop and come back down like big, you're like, I really don't want to go on Parleys because that. Even every time I'm driving up Parleys, I'm like, I would hate to bike up this right now. Like, not just from like, obviously like the suffering and pain perspective, but like all it takes is one person, errant swerve and row.
Yeah.
Cause like one of my friends jokes, it's like with road biking, it's not when you have an accident, not if you have an accident, but when you have that accident. Yep. And like I had mine. So in Seattle, so I lived in Seattle for a period, and like, that's where I was biking a lot. It was super fun. Just like explore really. Cause I wasn't from there, so it was a good way to have that. And then there's one time for people who know the area, I was going around South Lake Union, and there's this path where it's like bikers, but then like very close is pedestrians. And to be fair, I was going too fast. But all of a sudden I see this kid on like one of those typical, I mean, it was just like a little bike. He couldn't have been older than 6. And I look at him like, he better not just perpendicularly cross in front of me. Oh. And sure enough, as I say it, straight in front of me, I squeeze my brakes. I run into like swerve to hit this back tire instead of him square. But then I go into this fence and like my arm gets stuck in the fence and I come to like a jerking halt. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, arm's broken. Where's my bike? Hey, bike looks like it's fine-ish. Might need a new tire or whatever. Where's the kid? And the kid's like kind of in shock. I'm like, hey, like, where's your adult? Like, I need to figure this out. And for like 50 yards back, this guy comes running. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, hey, man, like, maybe a little closer. Like, I realize I had some responsibility in this, but do that. And like, he's like, okay, do you need a ride home? I'm like, no, I do not want to spend any more time with you right now. Like, you need to go. Like, I'm not happy enough, but I don't want to be dumb.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, hey, all right. Status check. How are we feeling? And like, look at my arm and like, okay, like not broken, thankfully, but I probably had this like bruised sleeve from like my bicep all the way down to my wrist for like 3 weeks. And I had to go to work with it. And everyone's like, oh my, like what's wrong? Like, are you okay? Do you have a disease? Like what's going on? And I can't remember where I was going with this, but like, I feel like Parleys and like going up there, like you can ask for danger like more than you need to, but you obviously don't want to.
If you're Me Duole, you're going up Parleys. It's happening.
Love it.
We have to take you on it.
Deal. But yeah, I kind of like what you're talking about with kind of this correlation between everything happening with this community you're building and during the pandemic, because I mean, most people during that time felt so lonely. And again, like maybe a lot of them are getting into cycling and starting to try to find this new thing, not knowing where this happens. And all of a sudden, here's this perfect community welcoming anybody who wants to be a part of this great sport, this great suffering together. And I'm sure gave people a lot of, what's the word I want to use? Just a lot of community during a really hard time where people were looking for that. And it's really hard to be good in a mental headspace.
Yeah, it was. It was good too. I don't know if you remember, but there are all those studies that if you're riding in a bike group, that the spray of your mucus couldn't go back 60 yards. And I was like, you know, we would get in trouble for riding in groups and being together because I mean, there is, granted, when you're breathing heavy, it is a risk, but we kind of looked at that risk and said, listen, we're a community. I'm with Jake every day. I'm going out. I'm riding with Jake. I'm riding with Andy Welch. I'm riding with Ryan Welch. I'm riding with Justin Spank. It's like we're going out.
Yeah. And
it really was a fun part of the pandemic was none of us are going to work. We're going on rides at 6. We're getting back at 10. I mean, we're doing like Tuesday rides to Tibble Fork Reservoir and back.
Yeah.
It was the best part of the pandemic. I mean, we all rode 10,000, 12,000 miles that year. Just so much riding.
Smiles on your face.
It was it's funny because 2021, 2022 we're just like, oh, remember that? Remember when we could take a Tuesday and ride to American Fork Canyon and back? Anyway,
those were the days.
Those are the days.
No, that's awesome. And so obviously it's grown to the place where it is now, but I mean, what does the future look like to you in the club?
Yeah. So constant growth. Since Chip and I took an active role in building, the team just continues to grow. So a lot of people gravitate towards it, and it's all types of racers, all types of riders, old dads, mountain bikers, people from out of state that want a community. So all the registered teams in Salt Lake City, Utah area, you pay a fee, you get put on the Utah Cycling Association webpage, and you can kind of like see all the different teams that are organized and the people that gravitate towards our culture and what we offer. We are always welcoming. Doesn't matter. We're happy to have. And like I said earlier, if that's not a great fit after you ride with us a few times, that's okay. I try to make sure that they don't spend thousands of dollars on outfits before that happens.
Yeah, before you go, you just buy like 10 kits really quick. Thank you.
Because that has happened a few times where I'm like, I'm sorry about that $3,000 you spent on jerseys. But the community as a whole continues to grow, continues to change. It's just I hope the team knows how special they are, like to each other. Sometimes I don't think they see the perspective that I see of who is doing what to build our group. The constant asking of team members what they can do to help, whether it's a guy who crashes. So that's a constant with how many people we have. There's always guys just eating crap.
It's a numbers game. Yeah.
And so it's been standard that we buy him a new kit. Like we don't really like advertise that until I guess right now. I buy him a new kit. We take it over.
Nobody crash on purpose just to get a new kit.
So, but then there's like a guy that's like, well, can I make a gift basket for this person? Or, hey, I can donate new wheels. Like his wheels got destroyed. Or what can we do? We'd send a meal over. And so the team itself constantly is becoming better in that way. The community is becoming stronger. Guys are, I always say this to the guys I ride with, the people I'm with. I find it so special that I am growing my group of friends. I'm like an older guy. And that I don't feel like that is normal, that my circle of people that are close is becoming bigger. And it's special.
Not a normal trend.
Right? I mean, it's like, oh, we've got these friends from high school we still hang out with and these people from my church. But I'm like meeting new people in this group. And then I'm like, you are now really special to me. And I didn't know you 2 years ago. And that is the direction that I hope we are headed, that there are more and more people that feel the way that I feel when they are with the group. There's a guy, his name's Brad Clifford. He went to the University of Utah, played football, and he went to Olympus, and I know his family growing up. And he is like on this he's just a friend. He's on this marching path that more men need to be more passionate about being friends with each other. Mm. And it's like a special thing that I have tried to take on. Like I can be a friend that really cares and that loves other men. And that is like a really good thing. That I can be vulnerable with my cycling community and check up on them. And if I feel like somebody's not doing well, like I can say something. Yeah. And that is the direction I feel and hope that this group is transitioning and is doing, is like true caring, not just like go to immigration.
Yeah. Not just going through the motions of like what someone should do, but like actually heartfelt thought about like that example, like, hey, like I saw his wheels broke. Like I have these, I haven't been using them. They're like perfect condition. Can we get them into it? Like where it's not like, oh, hey, all right, raise of hands. Here's the sign up sheet. We're going to pass it around again. Yep. But like that showing up. Cause like, I like what you're talking about, this trend of your circle's growing where most people in your situation would see the opposite happening. And even more so, like it's not growing just by like acquaintances. It's not just this like ominous number of like, oh, well, I know 500 people. Like how cool am I? But it's the quality of the relationships being there too. Because I'm with you. Like there's so many people who have these groups of friends, acquaintances and everything, but there's no one that they can feel like they can go to talk to about anything. And it's sad. Like, and I mean, we all feel like that in some parts of life. We can't talk to someone. I mean, I don't want to say like necessarily like depression specifically, but like their life's hard. And if you can't actually have someone where they're like, hey, how are you doing? You're like, actually, it's been a rough week. They're like,
right.
Pop a seat. Let's chat.
And there's no better place than on a ride.
Oh yeah.
To do that.
Exactly. You're there, you're doing it together. You're not going anywhere else. There's
Right.
no distractions, even more so.
Yeah.
It's not like kids are running up or like Slack's going off or all these things. It's like, hey, we're going to be on this bike for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 17 hours.
Let's talk.
Let's chat.
Yeah.
And that's where that is where the culture comes in. Who cares what color your jersey is? Who cares how nice your bike is? But showing up authentically for people and being there is what makes it all worth it.
Yeah. In the back of my mind, though, I will be judging your bike.
Noted. You noted. Hey Siri, remind me to buy an S-Works if I ever decide to go on a run.
Make sure it's tuned.
Yeah, very well. No, I love that. So, I mean, just to kind of give credit where credit's due, I mean, who have been some of these sponsors that have been helping out with the club from day one or have joined on along the way?
Yeah. So one of the neatest parts about Me Duole is the sponsors are internal. So we're not out like sponsor us.
Yeah, you're not fundraising.
No, this is team members who are concerned about the growth and what we're doing as a team. They want to be recognized, and they want to have their logos on the jersey, featured on the podcast, part of our giveaways and raffles. So Barbacoa has always been a huge part of our team. Maybe not so much now, but they really can deserve credit for years and years of feeding the team, constantly providing discounts to the team. I mean,
you need a lot of carbs if you're riding your bike that much.
And if you know the old jerseys, like the old Me Duole kits were like these big Barbacoa flames.
Yep.
They were awful. But I mean, that was a huge part of our team growing up. But our new main sponsor, so cyclingupgrades.com, a team member, Corby, down in Utah County. So his business is the new generation of sponsors of the team. And not just that, but his business itself takes your old nasty gear, like your bike, and he upgrades it he helps you. He'll buy it, then he'll upgrade it, and he'll do wheels or frames or whatever you want to, anything that you want to do for the team. Cycling Upgrades is a huge sponsor. He's constantly running raffles on our Zwift, and he does weekly challenges. So yeah, but all the sponsors on our team they're all guys that are just part of the squad.
Yeah, they're next to you. They're not just.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Just giving you money because you asked for it.
Yeah. I mean, we have one sponsor that he's not on the jersey, but Eric Ellis makes this powder. It's called Formula 369. And it's like it's a drink mix. Mm-hmm. And the team is like the launching pad for this guy's product. And it's just been, it's stuff like that. It's really fun to watch the community rally behind our sponsors. So.
Especially people nearby, local, businesses, just like the 369 powder, like what better way to be like, all right, product development. How do we feel about that flavor? Everyone's like, that sucked. That's Never terrible. Give that to me again. He's like, cool, noted. Here's this new one. Rocks, love it. Or just like to be able to have those people to help, but then also realize that's not the only reason they're there.
Yeah. That's a good group. It's a really fun group of sponsors that they're always there for us. So yeah.
Cool. So Stu, I want to end with the two questions I always do, but the first one is, if you could have somebody be on the Small Lake City podcast, who would you want to hear their story from?
One of my good friends, Adam Barker.
Okay.
So Adam Barker is a local photographer, and his story is just awesome. Didn't set out to be this professional action photographer, didn't set out to be this landscape, but he is like this self-made businessman that just hustles and he grinds and he loves Utah. He's a teammate of mine. He loves the outdoors, everything about what he brings to our team and my friendship. His story is really, I would love to hear what he brings. And he knows the community, knows all the extreme athletes. He's a fly fisherman. He's into moto. He's a mountain bike rider.
Sounds like a Utah guy through and through.
Yeah, I think he went to East. He's just like, so he'd be awesome. Did you say two people or one?
However many you want to.
That's good.
Cool.
I'd love to hear from Jake Cook if you bring him in.
We can do that.
Although he ditched me today on the podcast, so maybe not. Maybe put him in timeout for a bit.
I'll pull that IOU from him. And then last question, if people are curious or want to join, where can they find you on social, website, or what's the best way about going about that?
Yeah. So meduole.com. that's it. That's the best place.
Cool.
That'll show all of so we have 94 different podcasts. So I try.
Sorry, I thought like podcasts, like individual podcasting episodes, but yes, episodes.
So
yes.
94 episodes.
Got it.
Where the idea behind it was, let's just interview guys on the team to make sure that we all know each other and the culture stays strong. So that is a huge part of if this is a good fit for you. That's on the website. All the bios, I don't know if that's the best word, for our yellow jerseys. So you could read 3 or 4 of those and be like, not for me. Or be like, yeah, these are kind of guys I want to hang out with.
Yep.
So you can click there. MeDuole.com also has our Instagram page, which I spend a lot of time kind of crafting and building and trying to tell our story. So yeah, MeDuole.com. Should I spell it?
I think so.
I got MIDUOLE.com. Me Duole.
There it is. Yeah. If you want to join the Zwift group, if you want to join the Strava group, if you want to see what it's all about, or go spend $5,000 on kits.
Yes.
That's the place to start.
That's the way to start. And my cell phone's on there. My email's on there. So if you're interested in even just joining us for rides, some guys are like, I'll join on a ride, and then we don't see them for a year. And then they're like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'll come.
It's time.
Yeah. And it's fine. And that's a great way to do it too. There's really no wrong or right way how to interact with the team. Some guys come on one ride a year. Some are there, like you said, every single time. And that's the beauty of how the community runs. It's like, I don't prescribe to you how to belong.
Yeah. It's not the to-do list of, if you want to be here, here's what you have to do.
No. So that's it, man.
So there it is. Yeah. If you want to join, go to meduole.com, check it out.
Blood test, immigration time. And if you have an S-Works. Yeah.
There you go. That's it. So Steve, thank you so much. It's been so fun to learn more about this cool community you've been creating and fostering, and I'm excited to watch it grow from here. So thanks for coming on, and excited for the future for it.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. I interview a lot of people, so it's fun to be interviewed. It's cool.
It's always nice to flip the script.
It is nice. I hope I don't sound dumb. So I've never been, like, being on this side is an interesting part of, like, having done this so many times. This has been cool. So thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. Oh, love it. No, it's so cool. Watch it grow from here. So thanks for coming on, and excited for the future for it.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. I interview a lot of people, so it's fun to be interviewed. It's cool.
It's always nice to flip the script.
It is nice. I hope I don't sound dumb. So I've never been, like, being on this side is an interesting part of, like, having done this so many times. This has been cool. So thanks. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming. Oh, love it. No, it's so cool. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Salt Lake City Podcast. Don't forget to like, follow, review, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends. And we'll catch you next week. We'll see you there.